Think about all the situations in team sports where two athletes are locked in a cat and mouse game of chasing and shaking. In other words, an offensive player doing everything in his power to lose a defensive player who is sticking to him like glue. These little battles take place constantly and often decide the outcome of entire games. To win such a battle, an athlete must possess great change of direction skills, body control, and jackrabbit acceleration. Breakaway belts, or reaction belts as they are sometimes called, generally consist of two waist belts connected by leashes with Velcro tips. All drills using this product require two athletes. Each athlete wears one of the waist belts and then connects himself or herself to the other athlete by Velcroing the end of his leash to his partner's leash. Each drill challenges one of the athletes to break the connection by creating separation, while the other athlete attempts to maintain the connection by closely mimicking his partner's movements. This first drill places athletes face-to-face in a game of lateral mimic. Here the athlete on the right side is going to attempt to break the Velcro connection within 5 seconds by moving laterally in his defined area. The athlete on the left will try to keep the Velcro connected by mimicking the movements of the lead athlete. Notice that cones and line markings on the ground are being used as guides for the athlete's movements. In this drill, both athletes may only slide laterally and must face one another at all times. This game forces athletes to keep a wide base where their feet are always situated just outside their shoulders. By maintaining this position, the athletes will be able to react to either their left or their right at any given time. A new wrinkle can be added to the lateral mimic drill by adding a third athlete or coach. The lead athlete and the trail athlete still play the same game as before, but with one exception. At some point during their 5-second time limit, the coach will clap his hands. The athletes must then react to the clap and sprint past a cone placed outside their original boundary. When the athletes begin this sprint, either athlete may try to create separation and break the connection. This added element alters the tactics used by the athletes in the first phase of the drill. In other words, the lead athlete wants to create separation in the lateral mimic portion of the drill, but he does not want to get caught in a position where he would be at a disadvantage in the subsequent sprint if the coach claps his hands. Likewise, the trail athlete in the lateral mimic portion wants to stay close enough to the lead athlete so the leash remains connected, but he also wants to be in a favorable position when the coach claps his hands. By turning the athletes so they face the same direction, the lateral mimic drill now becomes a linear mimic drill. The principle is the same. One athlete attempts to break the leash while the other tries to mimic his motions closely enough so that the leash stays intact for the full 5 seconds. The difference is that the athletes may only move forwards and backwards, that is, they may only sprint and backpedal. Transitioning from a sprint to a backpedal and vice versa tends to be more difficult than switching back and forth from an east-west slide as done in the last drill. This version challenges the athlete to utilize more balance and more body control. Here the lead athlete sits in front of the trail athlete, and both athletes have their legs extended straight out in front of their bodies. Notice that the leash is connected on the back of the lead athlete and to the front of the trail athlete. The lead athlete will initiate this drill by quickly popping off the ground and sprinting for a finish line marked 10 yards away. As soon as the lead athlete makes a move to get off the ground, the trail athlete immediately reacts to this movement and also gets up off the ground and begins sprinting after the lead athlete. The trail athlete must stay close enough to the lead athlete to keep the Velcro connection intact all the way through the finish line. The lead athlete is of course trying to accelerate away fast enough so that the connection breaks before he crosses the finish line. As with most of the drills on this video, if the lead athlete absolutely blows the trail athlete away, you can even out the difference in ability by using a longer leash. Here we have a series of gates set up with colored cones. The gates are placed in a zigzag configuration that athletes are instructed to visualize as a narrow hallway with a bunch of sharp corners. The lead athlete starts just behind the first gate, and the trail athlete starts a step behind the lead athlete. As soon as both athletes are ready, the lead athlete may initiate the drill at any time. The lead athlete's job is to sprint through the gates as fast as possible and to create enough separation between himself and the trail athlete that the leash between them breaks. The trail athlete's job is to match the lead athlete step for step and to stay close enough that the leash stays intact. One reason this game is so good is because it can quickly be altered by changing the configuration of the gates. Long straightaways between the gates play to the favor of an athlete with strong acceleration skills, while gates placed closer together with sharper turns force more extreme change of direction. Additional gates can also be added to test the endurance of the athletes. In this version of breakaway chase, we have placed 3 cones in a triangle configuration. The triangle is an important shape to use because it allows the use of long straightaways ending with extremely sharp turns. The straightaways give the lead athlete a chance to use raw acceleration skills to jet away from his opponent. However, although the lead athlete is given the opportunity to reach a high speed in the straightaway, the corner forces him to be able to slam on his brakes, come to a near complete stop, and then successfully make the turn and re-accelerate into the next straightaway. Thus, the triangle forces both athletes to balance between 2 movements that are polar opposites, sprinting and stopping. Another configuration that forces athletes to use the same 2 extreme forms of movement is the rectangle or racetrack shape. In this instance, the cones are set up in a long, skinny rectangle. Once again, the athletes are given the opportunity to pick up a great deal of speed in the straightaway, but are then forced into a hairpin turn. The lead athlete may choose to simply try to out-sprint his partner in the straightaway, but if he picks up too much speed, he runs the risk that he won't be able to execute a tight enough turn. If the lead athlete is out of control in the turn, then the trail athlete will surely close the gap and keep the leash slack and intact. Building off the circle chase drill, athletes are now introduced to the figure 8 chase drill. This is set up by using cones to mark off 2 circles, each approximately 3 yards wide, and set up 1 yard apart. The lead athlete begins at the bottom of the 8, and the trail athlete begins a step behind him. The lead athlete initiates the drill by sprinting the path of the figure 8. This drill incorporates the curved pathways of the circle chase drill, but also adds some additional elements of change of direction. The athletes will sprint in a counterclockwise path around the first circle, and then immediately transition to a clockwise path around the second circle. To give the drill an entirely different feel, the size of the circles can be adjusted larger or smaller. Also, using 2 different sized circles creates a more challenging pathway. Jungle Chase gives the lead athlete even more freedom to choose where he is going to move. It also gives him the freedom to choose how he is going to move. In this drill, sprinting, backpedaling, lateral moves, spins, and jumps are all allowed. The lead athlete must stay within the confines of a box marked with cones, but within that box he can do whatever he wants in an attempt to break the leash connection. In this demonstration, the athletes have been placed inside a 10 by 5 yard box and given a time limit of 5 seconds. However, longer or shorter time limits can be combined with larger or smaller boxes to change the feel of this game. The double break drill is unique because it causes the lead and trail athletes to reverse their roles right in the middle of the drill. Here the lead athlete begins a couple of steps in front of the trail athlete. The lead athlete will sprint 10 yards and touch a line. During this sprint, the lead athlete is trying to break the trail athlete, and the trail athlete is attempting to stay close enough to prevent being broken. Once the lead athlete touches the line, he then reverses his sprint and heads back towards the original starting line. As soon as the trail athlete sees the lead athlete touch the line, the trail athlete also reverses his sprint and now tries to break the connection on the way back. Remember that you want each of your breakaway games to be as evenly matched as possible. So if you have 2 athletes of different abilities, try adjusting their starting positions or the length of the leashes until you get a matchup that is challenging to both of them.